Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a little Tom Ford sneak peek for you guys. Two new palettes that technically aren't out yet, at least not here in the US, but I've got my hands on them, and this was definitely a series of events, me tracking some people down that I knew had pictures of them and then figuring out how to get my hands on them. All I can tell you is that eBay is going to charge you more than if you wait. Okay, so if you want these, I would say wait until they come out and purchase then, because yeah, you're going to have a little bit of an upcharge if you do end up finding them. But when I saw these, I just had to have them. I had to test them out. I wanted to compare them as well, because when I was looking at these two palettes, I'll open them in just a second. You guys are probably like, let me see the palettes. When I was looking at them, I was thinking, you know, I feel like I could dupe these out of my own Tom Ford collection. There's a couple palettes that I don't have that are a little reminiscent of these, but I'm going to show you guys swatches, and I'm going to show you just how close, if not the same, these are to some things that are in my collection already. All right, let's open them up. And oh yeah, I do have two tutorials as well. This look as well as one with this palette right here, Meteoric. Oh, this is such a beautiful neutral palette. You have two of what I like to call these special shades. This is to me what makes the palette worth it when they work well. And I have to say that this palette does actually work well. It gives this glass-like sheen to the eyes. It's so beautiful. If you don't watch anything but that tutorial, watch that tutorial, because these two are just absolutely gorgeous. You're also getting a matte shade in here as well as one of like those satin type of finishes. Now, the other palette, the one that I have on my eyes right now, is Visionaire. When I opened this one, I immediately thought this looks like Disco Dust and Golden Mink had a baby. That is exactly what I thought when I opened this, and you guys might be surprised just how close the swatches are. This is a palette that I will say, while beautiful and while it works well, I already have it in my collection. So let me show you. This is just the palette in of itself. You can see all the beautiful swatches. I wish I had more information, but all I can tell you is that the batch codes, check out, they are authentic and that they were made sometime in February. Before I forget, I want to mention that both of these palettes have the original 10 grams. Now, they have recently kind of shrunk down their size a little bit and went to 9 grams with some of their palettes, but these are 10. Now let me show you just how pretty much exact this is to Golden Mink and Disco Dust. All I did was just wipe off the bottom half of the original swatches, and then I went in with the other shades and just connected them so you guys could see just how identical they are. First, Gold Sheer Sparkle is the same as the one from Golden Mink. And then you have that pinky kind of satin shade, and it's the same as the one from Disco Dust. Now, I will say Disco Dust is a little bit smoother and a little bit more vibrant in person, but same shade. The first brown in the palette is the same as the one from Arabesque, and then the last brown is the same as the one from Golden Mink. Here you can see Visionaire up against Arabesque. Now these are the shades that are the same here. With this, you can kind of see I've got a little bit of hard pan. That's just because I have been swatching against everything. I've created that with my finger. I can easily get that off. But these just kind of look similar. Like you take out that gold right there, and they just kind of have like the same kind of feel anyway. But this is the shade that's similar in this, and then the rest are Disco Dust and Golden Mink. Now, I don't like this palette at all. I actually think that this one performs just a little bit better, the shade in this one, than it did in Arabesque, but I didn't really have as much of a problem with that shade in this palette as I did the Sheer Sparkles. Like, ooh, I really don't like this palette. Here we have Disco Dust up against Visionaire, and this is the shade that is the same in here. Now, like I said, this one in this palette is just a little bit creamier. It's a little bit more like shiny whenever you actually see it in person. But on the eye, you're really not going to see that difference. But if I was going to say like one is better than the other, this formula is just a little bit better. And then I have my Tom Ford loose ones. Do not ask me to show you guys how to depot a Tom Ford palette. I can't do it. Somebody else did it. I know that there's tutorials on YouTube, but they absolutely freak me out just like watching them come out. This top one right here is Golden Mink. And so let me show you side by side these two shades here and then these two shades here. As you just saw, this was easily duped out in the stuff that I already have in my collection. So I think that if you already have Disco Dust and then Golden Mink, you don't need this. And then even though I drew from Arabesque to get that other brown, it's still like if you already have those two, you just don't need this. You don't need it. Speaking of the palette quality in of itself though, if you don't have those other palettes, would I suggest this? Yes, I think it is a beautiful palette. I'm very happy that this, even though I kept swatching and kept swatching, this did not end up getting hard to pick up like Arabesque. Oh my gosh, that's I think the one Tom Ford palette that I actually just really dislike. You guys have heard that enough. But this is a beautiful palette. I just don't think that I necessarily needed it, but it's still cool to have and to test out for you guys. Now let's talk about my favorite one, Meteoric. This is just a heavenly palette to me. Let me go ahead and show you the single swatches of this. And now the dupe shades. The first sheer sparkle I swatched right up against Disco Dust and White Suede. Now neither of these are exact. However, I have a feeling that the one in Silver Topaz, I think that's the name of the palette, that one I think is going to be closer than the two that I picked out. With this next shade, I didn't have anything in my collection that looked like this. However, Seductive Rose. I'm going to show you the Beautylish swatches. I have a feeling that this is like that one. I just don't have that palette. This matte right here, I immediately thought of the recently released Sous le Sable. Let me show you side by side. Try not to drop my palettes. There they are. This shade here and this shade there. I'm not sure if it's just because it's the only matte in the palette that I didn't have any issues with it or blending into anything else, or if it's just a little bit better, because this one I do feel is a little bit more powdery. And this one grabbed just a little bit better on the eyes. I didn't have any problems with it. Now, I do think this is a good matte. It's not Cocoa Mirage good, but it's still a good matte. And I think it works really well within this palette. And then this shade here, this one was a little harder to dupe out, but I compared it to the one in White Suede. As far as my collection goes, this was the closest I could think of. And I would say that this is just a little bit darker than the one that is in Meteoric. For my collection, this is definitely the more unique out of the two. And if I didn't have any dupes for either of them, if they were both just brand new palettes, this is the one that I would say, like, it's my favorite. It's just so beautiful. I love both of these shades. No issues with the matte. And this one right here, I will say that I had to build it up just a little bit, but I liked that. I liked the sheen that it gave. I liked that it wasn't overwhelming. I got this beautiful soft look and then that just glass-like effect that I always rave about with Tom Ford and Charlotte Tilbury, which would only make sense seeing as Charlotte started with Tom Ford, but that is what I'm talking about, is this kind of quality, this kind of specialness, and just seeing that effect on the eyes is so nice. These are beautiful. Would I recommend them? Yes. I really like the way that they performed. I like the looks that I got out of them. I just have to tell you that if you are a Tom Ford collector, you probably already have these in your collection. So if you already have the palettes that I compared these to or that I spoke about, this is something I would say just go ahead and skip because you already have it in your collection. But anywho, stay tuned if you would like to see the looks that I created with both of these palettes. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this and let me know down below what you think about these, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys. Tom Ford number 13, and I'm going to start off with the shade right here. I am going to place this into the crease, actually like right above it, and use it as my transition shade. I didn't pick up too much of this right away. I kind of just put a little bit because I don't want it to be too intense right around the edges. Blending out nicely. I'm adding just a little bit more. Still don't want to have too much of it though. I'm going to do a smoky eye, and I want this just to kind of peek right around the edge of it. Smith 247, now I'm going to go in with this color. I'm going to start off by adding some depth into the crease. tiny little circular motions to blend upward. Don't want to cover up the last shade completely, so make sure that you've got a little bit of that peeking out. And you can always go back in with the brush you used, no additional product, and kind of merge them together. MAC 239 and the darkest shade, I am going to pack this on the lid. Same shade, I'm using this one damp on a Wayne Goss number 5. And the reason why I'm using it damp is because I just find it to be a little bit easier to use on the lower lash line and to help me not get any fallout, or at least not a bunch of it all down my face. I tend to get more fallout when I do my lower lash line than I do the top. Clean brush, this is a REPHR number 14. I'm just going to buff out the edge of that. I'm going to grab the shimmer on my ring finger and I'm going to start tapping this on the lid. I don't want it to be opaque. I want it to just kind of cover and add some glass-like sparkle to the lid. So I'm slowly going to layer it up. But again, I don't want too much, like just the perfect amount. Oh, it's so pretty. And I am purposefully pushing it up into the crease even. Same shade, Esum W21, just taking that at my brow arch. Then I'm going to go add on liner and mascara. Meteoric palette, and I'm taking a REPHR number 15 and I'm going in with the matte shade. I'm going to start off by taking this on the outer corner and then blending upward. Building up just a little bit. Sonia G Crease Pro. Now I'm going to go in with this color. I am going to add some dimension and depth to the outer corner, as well as bringing this into the crease and blending upward. I'm not taking this shade nearly as high as I did the last shade. Packing a little bit more on just the outer portion of the lid. This little V right here. This V. I'm going to take my ring finger and go in with this color. It's like a taupey purple. It's really pretty. I'm going to place this on the lid. I want this to be on the lid, but I also kind of want to push it upwards just a little bit so that it's nice and blended. So I like to take the excess from my finger and kind of turn my finger so that I get a little bit of it up into the crease area. I'm going to build it up just a little bit. Building up nicely. REPHR P21 and the first shade, I am going to press this on the front portion of the lid and on the inner corner. You could use your finger for this as well. I'd probably suggest like the pinky. But this time I wanted to use a brush and just kind of press it in. I'm also going to use that to highlight the brow arch. REPHR number 3, going back in with the darkest shade in the palette. I'm going to buff this right along my lower lash line, and then I'm going to go add on inner rim liner and mascara.